Okay guys, so what I want to go over next is what's called the power unit. The power unit is the hydraulic system that allows the cab to lift up so that you have access to the engine, and it'll also allow the spare tire to come down if you need to repair a tire. So to access the power unit, you want to come over to the passenger side of the vehicle. It's right underneath the spare tire. There's a box here, and you just lift the pin out. And now this system is pneumatic over hydraulic. So it's a hydraulic system that's operated from the air pressure that is in the air tanks. Now, if you run out of air, you have another option. You can just go hydraulic over hydraulic, and you have a pump jack here that you can jack the cab up with. Now, we have a couple of switches here that we need to pay attention to. We're really only going to be using the cab tilt and the spare tire. The suspension has been disconnected, so that's been disabled. To know what system you're working on, you actually have to select it first. So you have cab tilt and you have spare tire. So depending on what you're trying to lift or lower, you select this one first. So let's say we want to do cab tilt. Then we come up to cab tilt. We have lower and raise. So depending on what it is that you're trying to do, if you do have air in the system, you can use this button right here. So, okay, let's make sure we're in the right place. We want cab tilt. We want to raise our cab because our cab is lowered right now. And if we have air in our system, we can just hit this button and you can hear it, and you'll see the cab is starting to raise up. One thing that we want to make sure that we're doing before we lift our cab up, let's lower our cab back down here real quick. Okay. So before we lift our cab all the way up, we really want to make sure that there's nothing loose in the cab. Because what happens is this cab will tilt, and we have this huge windshield that if there's anything sitting here, it's going to fall forward and smash this windshield. So like our hoses here and our little tool bag, I've put them up close here. So when this cab tilts, this stuff won't fall, it'll be fine. You can also put things down here in the wheel well. There's a good chance that if you're on a fire, this whole truck is going to be filled with personal belongings, camping gear, whatnot. And so you want to make sure to clear that out. So just keep that in mind when you go to lift this cab up. So another button that you want to know about is the cab air. So the cab has these airbags, and it's supposed to be for comfort so that it has a better comfortable ride. It doesn't do much, but it's better than nothing. So if you want to disconnect the air from the air ride system, you can do that. That'll take it out. If you want to put it back in, you just push it in and give it a turn. So we've gone over cab tilt, cab raise, cab lower. So if we want to raise it, we want our main selector in the cab position, and then we can just pump it up. Now, if you're going through an inspection, the inspector might want to see the engine, and so you are eventually going to have to do this. Now, let's say we run out of air and we can't continue to do that. This piece will just do the same thing. You're just doing it manually. And so there'll be plenty of times when you find that you have to use this thing for whatever reason. If say the truck broke down, you don't have any air pressure, you can't build it up, well, now you're going to have to do it manually, which is fine. It's actually not too bad. So if you need access to the engine, that's pretty much how you do it. Coming back down, it's pretty helpful to have this rubber flap on the other side of this hydraulic cylinder. I'll show you. So we're going to lower it. To lower it, you don't really have to pump anything. It'll just fall on its own. But what I like to do is don't get underneath this fender, but just kind of gently push this rubber flap inside that hydraulic ram. That way the heat from the turbo doesn't overheat our airlines here. We've had problems in the past with those things breaking. So the way the spare tire works is that this arm is on a ram and it'll come all the way down, and then there's a chain that's holding the spare tire. We'll go over this in class, but before we take it down, we have to take out this strap, and then there is a safety chain on the bottom. We take both of those off, then we come to our main control here. We go spare tire lower, and same thing. If we have air, we go ahead and use the air controller. If we don't, we just use the manual controller. Now, if I'm ever actually having to lower this tire down, which it will happen from time to time, you might get a flat, and we've got the hardware to change tires out. I'll have a separate video on how to change these. But what I like to do actually is have the truck running, and I have it running at high idle. That way it's always building air pressure. That'll just make it easier for you to operate this control system if it's constantly building air. Then, of course, before taking off, you want to make sure everything is put back in its place. Otherwise, we'll lose it, and that will not be good. Voila, just like that. Okay, so that's about it for the power system. It's pretty simple. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comments below or ask me during training. We will be going over this. So other than that, let's get started on how to fill engines.